Hello and welcome to Young Guns. This is our live episode. If you're watching live, welcome. Make sure to tweet us at Outset Magazine. If you're listening to the recorded podcast, make sure to rate the show, subscribe on iTunes. Actually, if you're watching live, you can subscribe on iTunes as well, and you can get double dosage of Young Guns. I am joined this week by Bethany Bowra and Brittany Chapa, and we are talking about a whole slew of things, including Gary Johnson and the Bill Weld town hall that happened on CNN last night. We're going to be talking about the Trump campaign, its possible implosion, as well as some other topics if we have the time to get to them. But Brittany and Bethany, thanks for joining us. How are y'all?
Good. How are you, Stephen?
Always wonderful. It's always a great guys, I'm sure either you watched the whole thing or you at least saw the highlights. The Libertarian town hall that happened last night on CNN was the second town hall that Libertarians Gary Johnson and Bill Weld held. And last night caused a lot of frustrations among Libertarians, especially whenever Bill Weld started talking more about his positions that didn't seem so libertarian. But first I want to get some general thoughts on how you thought that it went. So Bethany, what did you think about the town hall? Do you think that, as Gary Johnson claimed, it will get them to 17% in the polls?
He's got big dreams. No, I don't think it's. I don't think it'll get them quite that far.
I think we're losing the audio on you, Bethany.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
There we go. I think it's interesting to watch this because this was their second one. Interesting to see how they start to evolve in what they're saying. They started, they started courting more Hillary voters than never Trump voters. They're aiming themselves at that left crowd, hoping that that's actually going to win them more votes. It was an interesting angle.
Yeah, the thoughts within the Libertarian Party with some of the people who have, especially the people who have been around, some of the activists, is that the libertarian message is kind of getting watered down, and even some are going as far as to say that it is being destroyed. Brittany, what do you think about the Libertarian Party, the state of it, and how these forums have been going for the Johnson-Weld brand?
I think libertarians are so fun. I think they're just a little crazy bunch, and I love to talk to them, and I love to see their point of view, because it's just like, okay, well, I mean, but the town hall last night, I thought they did better than the last one, so I think that's something they should be proud of. But I don't see myself supporting them. I really don't, just because, Weld being pro-choice, Johnson with his religious liberty stance, I can't deal with it.
I get this sense that what I've seen from the Libertarian Party or libertarian supporters is they say, I'm not going to vote for Trump or Clinton because that would be choosing the lesser of two evils. And then they go, Gary Johnson is not perfect, but I'm still going to vote for him. And I'm essentially saying, okay, so he's the lesser of three evils?
That's three.
Exactly.
They're still compromised. And I get that there won't be a candidate who embodies every viewpoint that you have. That's impossible. But I do think on big issues, like you brought up, the either the pro-life issue, or Bill Weld talked last night about gun rights. If those are issues that are pretty central to conservatism or to libertarianism, those are big compromises that you're making. And so I don't really understand. Yeah, Gary Johnson's not the perfect one, but I don't know. I've been going back and forth whether I would vote for him or whether I would write someone in or what I'm going to do there. But Bethany, what are your thoughts about just, is this even realistic? Like, should we even be having this discussion?
I'm convinced that 2016 is just a dream. All of it's a dream.
Well, then someone needs to pinch us because this is ridiculous.
Everyone is kind of losing their minds, especially when it comes to the Libertarian Party now, because we're used to the Libertarian Party being even further right than the Republican candidate. Like, that's the further extreme. Republicans do not like a moderate candidate that gets nominated, can't go there. But instead, after Gary Johnson was bragging that he agrees with 70% of Bernie Sanders' policies. And it's like every everything is just imploding, and nothing is making sense. And I think the larger issue is that the Libertarian Party just doesn't. Can you hear me?
We can hear you a little bit. It's kind of tuning out a little bit.
A little bit. Here. I'll move a little bit closer. I think the Libertarian Party just in general doesn't sell themselves as a party that has real ideas. I think they still come off as a party that just wants to legalize drugs, and that's pretty much all they care about. So I think that's and they don't, and that's the issue, is that there is more than that, but people don't see it. So that's a much larger issue that I think they need to tackle before they do anything else.
When I think of the state of 2016, it's like you had a very good opportunity for a third party, and I feel like that opportunity is not being cashed in on. But I will say that it is historic that we're having these town halls with the Libertarian candidates, and there's a possibility-ish that they could get into the debate. So it just kind of depends on what the things are. But Brittany, do you think they can get into the debates, or Trump has already said that he doesn't want Johnson in the debate, but do you think that that's realistic?
Trump doesn't even want Hillary in the debate.
Well, Trump would like to just talk.
Trump just wants to debate himself. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. I honestly don't know if it's realistic. I think it might be possible because I think people are so tired with both Clinton and Trump. But then at the same time, it's like the Libertarian Party, they're just a mess. And so we have three parties that are a little bit chaotic. Some libertarians say that Gary Johnson isn't libertarian enough. You have the Never Trump people. You have the Bernie Sanders people hating Hillary. I just don't know what to do anymore.
I think the solution is that we all write in Mitt Romney.
I like this idea.
Great. And so the interesting thing about Mitt Romney is they're saying that because of his connection with Bill Weld, both former Massachusetts governors, that Romney should endorse Gary Johnson, which I do not see happening. But as the theory goes, he endorses Johnson, and then they might have a shot at winning Utah, which Clinton is leading by 1 point in. That's kind of a weird thing that's happening. Utah's deeply red.
Hey, YOLO.
This is such a mess. I can't.
So many theories. Well,
everything about right when you think it can't get worse, it does.
Right.
Every time.
At least the Libertarian Party did not choose that half-naked man as their new chairman. So there's a bright side, is what I'm saying.
You know, I think that they should have picked him as their chairman. I think he's wonderful.
Maybe they would have gone more mainstream.
He might have been able to wake them up.
That's true. It's hard to miss him. That's for sure. Let's jump from this dumpster fire to another dumpster fire, the Donald Trump campaign.
Oh, fun.
This has not been a good week for Donald Trump, and I don't even mean that like because I'm biased against Donald Trump or anything. Objectively, this has been a terrible past couple of weeks for Donald Trump. Not only did he get just insulted so bad by at the DNC by all the speakers, but he's also been kind of hurting himself. And one of the latest report from CNN sources is that Trump, the Trump supporters, kind of the top supporters, are frustrated by the candidate, including GOP leaders. And what it said is that sources close to the campaign are describing a series of mishaps that are trailing the GOP presidential nominee, most prominently his now multi-day battle against Khizr Khan, the Muslim father of a killed U.S. soldier. And it went on to say that even his campaign manager, Paul Manafort, says that they feel like they are wasting their time given Trump's recent comments. And it's been incredible that even Republican leaders, Paul Ryan, comes out and says that these are deplorable comments that Trump is making, and that's not how we should treat the parents of a fallen soldier. But nonetheless, Trump doesn't seem fazed by any of it, and I think part of it is his brand of not admitting mistakes, and quite honestly, maybe not even believing that there even was a mistake. I don't think that he at all thinks that he was in the wrong there. But Bethany, what is Trump's campaign about to blow up more than we already thought it had?
No, I don't think so, actually. I think he's going to keep on doing this and nothing's going to happen. No, I don't think so. I think this is his brand. And this is something that he's done for as long as anyone can remember, even when he was on TV. This is something that he did. This is how he runs his brand. So the fact that people are surprised by this kind of amuses me. Honestly, like, since when does he care what other people think? Like, did nobody watch The Apprentice? That was like his kingdom. He did whatever he wanted. It's just he's carrying it over, and he's going to turn the entire country into that and just run the whole thing just like that. He's going to change the Oval Office. He's going to have a long like, I'm convinced that's what he's doing. He's, even with the comments he's going back and forth with the father of this fallen soldier, it's like he just has to pick something and grab it. And he finally found something that he can grab. And he's not going to listen to anybody who's telling him to let go. It's like a dog who grabs something, they just start pushing their mouth around. Like, they don't let go of it. He doesn't want to. He found something to grab onto.
So, Brittany, do you agree that this is part of his brand? It's not going to change anytime soon?
Yeah, I do. I think it's cute that people are saying that his comments like this steer him off message, when in reality that's been his message since the beginning. And if you're barely thinking that Trump is a mess, I'm concerned for you because he's been a mess since the beginning.
Yeah, well, but I will say that, is it ever going to cross the line? Like, do you think that there's ever going to be something where, I mean, I thought that this was pretty bad. You're insulting the parents of a fallen soldier, and you're saying that the mother didn't speak, probably because she wasn't allowed to speak. Like, that is so over the line. But I mean, this is the same guy who said that John McCain's not a war hero because he was captured and he was tortured. And it's like, where is that line? Where does it exist? What can he say? As much as I hate to pose this hypothetical, what could he say to make people go, okay, I'm done, I can't support you anymore?
I don't think that there is anything. I think that his supporters will support him regardless of what he says. Let's be honest.
Bethany, what if he actually went and shot people in the streets? Do you think that he would lose the support, or is he correct?
No, and people have actually been asked if he went and started shooting people, if that would change anything. They said, no, not really.
It's
No.
fine.
They have no.
That's cool.
They don't know why they're supporting him, so nothing that he does will make that support stop. That's the issue. If they actually knew why they were supporting him and had legitimate reasons that actually had dealt with policy, then he would be able to lose that support. But that's not why they're supporting him. They're supporting him out of spite in a lot of cases, and that cause is not gonna. That's not gonna stop it.
Well, there's some policy, right? Like he's gonna build a wall. That's policy.
Oh, duh. And Mexico's going to pay for it. Hello.
Oppose free trade. That's a policy. But it's stunning to me that the whole idea that Trump supporters rally behind is he's not a politician. He's not doing this like other politicians have done, and he's changing the game. And to that I say that change is great, but change for change's sake is not great. And you don't simply want to do something or support something just because it's different. Like, it needs to be a substantial difference, a positive difference. And a lot of people do think that this is a positive difference, but I, as much as of a level-headed person as I like to think I am, I talk with Trump supporters and they say that they are just irritated by the way that things are going, and they want to try something new, anything new. And I think that is a dangerous desperation game that we shouldn't be dabbling in.
Yeah, I think it goes back even to just a lack of basic knowledge of how our government system works. Because when you don't understand how the systems of government work, then you have no problem throwing someone in there who also doesn't know how our systems of government work. You know, there's a different way to make this change other than just like, oh, let's pick someone and put him in there and see what happens. It can't be any worse. It could be worse.
Brittany, there's very good. Brittany, there's this idea that that Mike Pence will essentially be Trump's Dick Cheney in the sense that he will run everything. He will be the effective president because Donald Trump. Personally, I don't think Donald Trump wants to govern, but Mike Pence has a record in government. So, do Does that ease your tensions a little bit by thinking, well, maybe Mike Pence will be the real president?
No. No. And I mean, if the ticket were switched, if it was Pence and Trump, I would consider voting for it. But I feel like Trump just ran to scratch it off his bucket list. And if he wins and once he gets in office, he's going to realize that it's not a fun job. And he's going to get bored and he's going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so just thinking that, it's sad, and I'm not voting for it.
Well, another concern I think is that I think that if he were to become elected, and his disinterest in wanting to actually govern, I think that leaves a void that will be filled by the heads of bureaucratic agencies. And what I think you'll see under a Trump administration are bureaucratic agencies getting a lot stronger, like even more stronger than they are under President Obama, in the sense that they're going to have to learn to be a little autonomous, because I don't think you're going to get much direction from Trump. Maybe on some of his key issues, like, well, obviously he would be very concerned about the border, possibly the economy, but you think about the other agencies that deserve that still deserve attention, and his disinterest and is likely disinterest in wanting to deal with that. I think that you're going to see a mass expansion of government. Where for someone like Hillary Clinton, as much as I hate to give her credit, I think she at least kind of sort of knows what government looks like and how it's run, and she'd be able to kind of policy set and agenda set and run the executive branch, essentially. And I hate that it's come down to that.
Yeah, it's sad. It really is. And it's sad when Republicans are switching over and supporting Hillary Clinton. But what can you do?
I have issues because I think if you're a Republican, if you're not just a Republican, I think if you're a conservative, if you say you're a conservative who supports Hillary Clinton, I don't think you're really a conservative, because she may have some slightly moderate positions, but they're not conservative positions, unless you're talking about foreign policy, in which that case, the conservative foreign policy, in my view, is troublesome. So, Bethany, do you have any thoughts on
everything.
that idea?
The only thing that I'll add is I think it's a really, really sad state of affairs when Hillary is the reasonable one.
Barely, though. Barely.
But
just a little.
But so the DNC showed that the Democratic Party looks like the more sane party. The RNC was doom and gloom. The DNC was hope and change. But it worked for them twice before, and it could possibly work for them again. And she was painted in a very good light.
Yeah, she was, because the RNC was just all about Trump, and they made the DNC about America. And so that's what people want to hear. We don't care about the Trump show. We care about what's going to happen to our country coming 2017.
So, Bethany.
Yeah, I think that it was a more professional atmosphere, and it was a more serious atmosphere. And I think that was the biggest thing, was just the vibe came off. Like Brittany said, it was more where the focus was. I think they kind of very, very good focus on a lot, but they did it bigger brush, and they were able to just kind of paint over everything with it instead of just honing in on one individual person.
Bethany, I was having this discussion with you during the DNC. If you just look at the videos that they were playing, marketing is so powerful, especially in elections, especially in these conventions. The videos were focusing on people, and they put people first, and they told these stories, and even though they were more about kind of feel good over policy, ultimately that's kind of what wins. And I think the Republicans have a deficit in putting people first, and conservatism is supposed to be that ideology, and the Republican Party is supposed to uphold this ideology that, in theory, puts people first. But we're just not seeing it in terms of messaging. And one of the groups that is feeling extremely cornered by the Republicans are Latino supporters, and we've seen that Trump's numbers with all sorts of minorities, African Americans and Latinos, is extremely low, single-digit stuff. But you also have this very interesting, I found this article in BuzzFeed talking about the Trump Hispanic engagement effort is sputtering, and it's they have a real campaign, Latinas for Trump, Latinas and also Latinos for Trump, Hispanics for Trump, all the variations of that. And there is this grassroots effort to pull more Hispanics into the Republican Party, but they're doing it not in the guise of like Hispanics in the Republican Party, but Hispanics specifically for Trump, which boggles my mind, because while I don't believe, I don't know, there's a lot of different opinions out there about his immigration, but ultimately I think that he's kind of shot himself in the foot there. But these activists, these Hispanic activists, are saying that there is a chance that he could maybe not win the majority of the demographic, but win a significant amount. But I don't see it. Brittany, do you see that happening at all?
You know, surprisingly, I see it a little bit, just because illegal immigration tends to, I think, offend more immigrants than it does Americans, because even where I live, which is about 5 minutes from the border, you see people here supporting Donald Trump. You see them throwing parties at the GOP headquarters for Trump, and people going. And CNN was down here, which totally freaked me out because nobody ever comes here. But anyways, and so it's just the idea of his immigration policy. Everything else I think they don't like. And then I know there's border patrols here that are also Latinos, Hispanics, and you know, they think Trump is going to help them out more than Hillary Clinton is. And so I see him getting, you know, maybe some, but I don't think a lot.
No, I don't think it'll be like George W. Bush number. Like I'm thinking the most recent Republican who did fairly well with Hispanic was George W. Bush, but Trump is no George W. Bush, and he's very proud of it. That does bring up an interesting point, because I also know immigrants who support Trump, and they say that their biggest frustration is that their biggest reason for liking him is that they were legal immigrants, and he is still very much pro legal immigration, unless you're Muslim probably, but nonetheless, he's not going to kick out everybody. But Bethany, do you think that do you think the population of legal immigrants supporting Trump is good enough to boost those numbers?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to have a very high number in any demographic, honestly. But I don't think that the way that he talks about anything in general is enough to get those voters to come over to his side. I think that the way that he talks about immigration in general, he focuses on illegal immigrants, but it spreads out because there are Mexican immigrants who are here legally. He said all Mexican immigrants are rapists. So whether you came here legally or illegally, that comment could offend you and should offend you. So I think that I don't think his rhetoric is conducive to a very high turnout for illegal immigrants with him. No.
I think the biggest challenge is how careless he's been in his language. It's troubling because I think if you look at his policies, except for some of the more extreme things, on immigration, he does line up with a lot of Republican interest. And when he talks about the deal that they almost made, the Republicans in Congress almost made with the president a few years back, I think there are some legitimate frustrations with Republicans who think that Republican leadership is trying to compromise on it, especially border security. But I think that the GOP's message in general about immigration, again, they don't put people first, and they also don't recognize the humanity involved in an issue like immigration. And Trump's comments certainly back up that idea. He's being very careless in the way that he talks about people. And people have been saying that his biggest strength is that he's not politically correct, and I think that there's some value in speaking the cold, hard truth. But there's also a fine line between telling the truth and simply alienating people because of the harsh language that you use. Brittany, do you find, so you think that he could, get some of these immigrants their support, but do you find that that they may be a little turned off, at the very least, by his language?
Yes, but I think ultimately they would still go for it just because they can't stand Hillary Clinton. And so, like, it really does amaze me when I see people here talking about how they support Donald Trump even after he says all of these awful things. And I try to reason with them, but clearly that doesn't work. But I don't know, he'll do it.
So
I don't know.
So what is the challenge?
It's interesting.
And what are their views? Is it what are they skeptical about her for?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you there.
What are the people in that area? What are they skeptical about Hillary Clinton on?
Well, I think it's just everything. I think they see her as a liar. They point out Benghazi, and so they don't think she's trustworthy enough to be in office. But then again, neither is Donald Trump. So. Yeah,
I think that's a fair assessment of it. I just think it's there is this idea today that Republicans were not in a good position before the Trump candidacy came along. Kyle Foley over at Red State wrote about that today. But really, Republicans under the Obama administration have been doing very well. The state legislators have turned Republican. A lot of governors have become, they're now elected Republicans. Obviously, we have majorities. And I think that if this Trump model of messaging and this Trump model of focusing only on, like, his key demographics are very much so white, kind of suburban, rural. Mostly, I think the data is that they're mostly like high school graduates, but that's about it. Not generalizing, but I mean that's kind of his strongest thing. And it's like, goodbye Big Tent. Bethany, do you think that the Republican Party? Because I've been thinking about how the Republican Party can rebuild from this. Because I think Trump will lose, and I think that they're going to have to do another post-mortem and figure out where they went wrong and how to rebuild. But at a certain point, you lose all credibility.
I think that he makes the credibility go away. But I think that it's going to come down the leaders that are lower down in the totem pole in state politics that are actually going to be able to keep that credibility through this election. I don't think it's all gone. I think it's gonna be difficult for us to keep that picture going, but I think it's important for us to focus on the down-ticket races and make sure that respect doesn't go away. Like I know you've said quite a bit. We've talked about that too, Stephen. You have to go down-ticket and focus on the Republicans that are at state level and make sure that they don't lose the support that they need because we have someone like that.
Yeah, Brittany, your thoughts on building post-Trump? I've, like Bethany mentioned, I've been advocating for the idea that you should not abandon the Republican Party, or at the very least, do not abandon conservatism and do not abandon the conservative candidates in your area. Vote on the state and local level. But a lot of people are rejecting that, and they're saying, I'm so fed up with this that even a lot of local politicians are now starting to endorse Trump because they want to get on that train. And I think we talked about 2 weeks ago in our post-RNC wrap-up is that when you're a politician, you have to keep your job, and you have to pander to people. And if the majority of your voters like Trump, you're going to have to say some nice things about him, even if you don't like him. I mean, there's reports that Mike Pence doesn't even like Trump. Would you agree? I mean, well, let me ask you this. From people that you talk to, is there the idea that they just want to be done with Republican politics because they feel like it's all been spoiled?
Well, I like to joke around and say that the GOP is dead just because I'm so frustrated with it, but I don't think that people should give up on conservatism. I don't think that they should completely give up on the Republican Party, especially if you don't believe that Donald Trump is a Republican. I still think that there are plenty of great conservative people in the Republican Party and even libertarians, like there's Rand Paul, you know? And when it comes to politicians endorsing him, I know it hurts my heart. I cried a little bit when Marco brought up Trump the other day, but, you know, they have to do it. They have to win, even though it's disheartening. It's sad.
Yeah. I think the bright side, if they play it right, is after a Trump loss, they have an opportunity to once again rebuild. It's their third opportunity to do it. And if they mess it up this time, then I think it's fair to say, like, okay, I'm kind of done with these people.
But I also just don't see how we're going to do it. I think we're already extremely divided with the Never Trump people and the Trumpkins. I mean, I don't see how we could unite again after if he loses.
I don't know if Trump supporters will stay in the, like, there's a lot of Trump supporters who were not Republicans before this, and they are Trump Republicans, and I don't think they would stay in the party, at least like on a national level, post-Trump. Could be wrong. I don't like making predictions anymore in this election, but I don't know if they would stay.
Well, I mean, you never know.
I think some of them are reasonable people, too. As much as I don't understand the logic, I think some of them actually would just go back to being a Republican and support whoever the next Republican nominee is. I don't think it's necessarily so focused on him.
Yeah, it's always rough when I don't try to characterize Trump supporters in a certain way, because I have a lot of friends who are Trump supporters, and they're smart people, they're good people. Many of them have been involved in the Republican Party for a very long time. They've done activist work on the local level, and you can't discredit them, and you can't say, you know, after this, okay, get out, we don't want you anymore.
Bye.
But they are going to learn in a very harsh manner that they made a very wrong decision, in my view. So I know this is the year of frustration, and that's the title of this episode. It's like 2016, the year of frustrations, and maybe 2017 will be better. I don't know. I feel like teachers in the future, like people our age, if they grow up to be teachers and they teach U.S. politics or history, they're just going to skip over 2016. They're going to be like, didn't happen. Just don't talk about it. We don't talk about 2016. I hate to bring up. We're going to end with this story, and much as I'd love to end on a bright note, but let's talk about the fact that Hillary Clinton is now the first female nominee of a major party. You have to give her props for that history. I know that Bethany has talked before about it not being that historic because it's Hillary Clinton, which I would agree. I mean, she's not the greatest role model for any type of human, let alone women. But a piece by A.J. Wilmingham on CNN says, it's 2016, what's with all the sexism? And this comes, obviously, after months of Donald Trump making all sorts of, you could say, solidly sexist comments, but also his son, Eric Trump, had made comments, and Ivanka has been in this conversation, but also the comments that have been made about Hillary. And I figured, since I'm not the one I'm not the perfect person to talk about sexism, because, you know, for multiple reasons, but I figured since I have you two ladies on here, let's talk about the sexist undertones of this election. And Bethany, we'll start with you. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton. There have been a lot of comments, not as much from the Trump campaign, like they haven't directly said that she's unfit to be president because she's a woman, but I think that idea is still somewhat alive. What are your thoughts on how Hillary has been treated in the framework of this discussion?
I think that she's been treated a lot more fairly than people were expecting, honestly, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's Hillary Clinton. I think any other woman in that position, being the first female nominee of a major party, she would have gotten a lot more of those comments. There would have been a lot more back and forth about that. I think because it's Hillary, I think that that makes people a little more confident in her ability to lead, regardless of whether she's female.
Okay. Brittany, what are your thoughts on, do you think that there's been a lot of sexism this election? Do you think this is a fair criticism, saying that that there's been all these sexist undertones?
I think there has, and it's been from both sides. I mean, people say that Hillary Clinton herself is the war on women, and while Donald Trump says his sexist remarks, I think they have a point. I think she's very hypocritical when it comes to women's issues and supporting women's issues. So, I mean, with the first female president, there had to be, first female candidate for president, sorry. We all knew it was coming with the sexist undertones. Come on, guys.
So let's also talk one more avenue about this before we finish out. Also talking about sexism was the Roger Ailes story. He is now out of Fox News, although apparently he got a pretty good severance package. But in this article it says, let's take the case of Gretchen Carlson. The TV personality left her post at Fox News in July and filed a suit against the network CEO Roger Ailes, alleging sexual harassment. Though ideally none of this should have happened at all, Ailes stepped down weeks later and Carlson received public support for her actions. But it didn't take long for this relatively positive development to devolve. A few weeks after Ailes' resignation, Eric Trump, son of Donald Trump, said his sister Ivanka is immune to the problem of sexual harassment. So this is not only the year of it on the campaign trail, but now this blowing up in the media, and Fox News was not really that damaged, I don't think. I think that Roger Ailes was damaged and his reputation was damaged, but Fox News as a network, maybe not so much, because I was very proud to see that their anchors were standing up and were behind Gretchen and some of the other female hosts that had come out and said things like that. But it does seem like, and I don't want to blame Trump for this, because I don't think he is to blame, but I do think that when the culture becomes a lot more loose with the way that we treat people, and I'm not advocating for a PC culture here, but what I am saying is that I think that when you have this climate that is so tense and so divided and so characterized by divisive comments and the like, I think that leads way to people thinking that that certain things are a little more acceptable. Brittany, what do you think about the Fox News controversy and the allegations of sexual harassment, as well as Eric Trump's comments about that?
I don't think Eric Trump meant anything bad about what he said. I think he could have worded it a little better. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But, with Fox News, I'm proud that the anchors supported Gretchen. I don't think that they'll be hurt. But you're right. When this becomes a culture, it's acceptable. And there's a difference between being politically correct and just being mean. So, what...
Yeah, it's like Trump threw out a baby. I mean, that's mean.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not being.
Exactly.
That's not being mean. That's being mean.
Yeah.
Bethany, I'll let you have the last word on this one.
I think too. I think that, well, like you said, when you start to encourage people to look at the process, it just encourages people to run wild and say whatever they feel like and have no regard for anything.
Yeah, I think that this year is not over yet. We have a few more months until the election. We have a few more months until the new year. Hopefully, 2016 will be better. I hope that. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are like, "This is going to be my year," but for America, this has not really been great. But that's okay. Hopefully we'll get over the hump. We're in like the terrible two phase, I think, is what's happening, is that we're just causing all sorts of troubles because we're trying to be so independent. I don't know. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Let's go around and say real quick, Brittany, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Brittany J Chapa, and that's Brittany Ttany, not Ney.
Good. Bethany?
My Twitter is just at Bethany Bowra.
Awesome. And we'll also be linking all the social profiles in the description below whenever this video goes up. And if you're on the podcast, it will be in the podcast description. You can follow Outset Magazine at Outset Magazine. You can follow me at Stephen with a PH _ Perkins. Thank you to Bethany and Brittany for joining me this week. And we will be back next week with a whole new panel. So thanks, guys, for joining me. And have a good rest of your day, your evening, whatever time you're listening. We'll see you next week.